feel as if the entire cope this generation has been revolving around one specific point, the price point. Like, I don't want to pay $450 for a Switch 2. I don't want to pay $60 for a game. I don't want to give Nintendo any money at all. Just look at how much people seethe about like Amiibo, right? Like, how many times do you see like Nintendo haters just kind of emphasize how much they hate the fact that these things exist and that they cost real money? Like, it's positively disgusting, and it's something that we really do have to address because it feels as if, Zoomers, the people who are begging for free healthcare and to be taken care of by the government, these people are also demanding that they should be able to get video games for free. Just look at like the cope regarding like, Donkey Kong Emerald Rush or Pokemon Legends ZA or like any of these other games that are coming out, like that should have been free. They cry, even though these games in a lot of sense, like just encompass an insane amount of content. Emerald Rush in particular is a really good example of this because I have been playing this DLC for I think about like 15, 20 hours now, probably something like that. The DLC is so much more expansive than anybody gave it credit for. Like, I'm honestly kind of shocked they only charged $20 for it. Putting it in the same level as like Odyssey's Balloon Mush Road is completely disingenuous and really needs to be called out. Like, you probably would have gotten your value's worth if Emerald Rush was more expensive than what it was. But like, all that aside, why exactly are people against the idea of Nintendo making money? Because if you're not a complete dipshit, you realize that the more money Nintendo makes, the more they can invest in new games, the more they can expand their studios, and therefore can produce new products. What exactly is so difficult to understand about this? Every time the price point thing comes up, people come up with this cope that Nintendo is greedy and they just want your money. Yeah, because they're running a business. Like, what is so weird about this? Like, people really think that Nintendo gives you video games for free. They really think that Nintendo can continue to exist and producing new products if they just give away everything for free. And people like keep spurging out about like, well, the price point is too high. Like, what would be a reasonable price point? Because I have grown up seeing people seethe about the price points for games like as low as like $10. Okay. We saw this with like the Welcome Tour. Like, that's too expensive. Like, wait, what? Like Dragon Drive, that's too expensive. Like Donkey Kong Bonanza, that's too expensive. Like, because they're not getting it for free. That's kind of the mindset they're in. And I think this is why like so many of these people like hype up Game Pass so much. Is that like, oh, I get these games for free by paying a $30 fee every month. It's like, obviously Game Pass was a bad deal from the onset. Obviously it was a scam, but everybody just kind of like worshipped it initially because they could take advantage of the deals. Like they let you sign up for $1. So, people would like, sign up for it for $1, play everything on the service in like a month and then cancel and then like, just do it again when they wanted to play more games. That was the Game Pass model, really, that it was essentially giving away games for free, trying to lure people into paying the $30 a month fee. But of course, that didn't pan out. And now they're failing because, they asked people for money. And honestly, like, this is the most perfectly reasonable thing for a company to do is to ask you for money for a service. Like, and again, I'm just so tired of people thinking that like they deserve things for free and that things should just be handed to them and that like they should be taken care of and that Nintendo should just give you free video games because you're such a loyal customer. Yeah, you're such a loyal customer that you won't even pay $70 for Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. Like, oh, I haven't played a Nintendo game since the N64, but I'm a loyal customer, so I'm just going to pirate everything. Like, like I know people like that. We have seen people make this cope. that like, emulation is perfectly fine because like, well, I paid for this game 30 years ago. Like, yeah, that's not how this works, buddy. Like it's just like, and again, like there's all sorts of like aspects to this issue. There's so much to talk about, but like it does need to be said more that yes, Nintendo is absolutely entitled to your money if you play their video games. This is not a complex issue. This is not some controversial statement. This is not some huge edgy take from Harmon Smith, the most hated Nintendo YouTuber on the platform. There should be no debate about this matter that it is perfectly reasonable for Nintendo to charge you to sell you their games. Like this is not a controversial thing. This is not something that should be so hugely talked about, but it does need to be called out more. I think any Nintendo fan who attacks Nintendo for their price points is a communist. I think they're lazy. I think they need to get real jobs. I think they need to move out of their parents' basements. I think they need to make money. Okay. Because if you're complaining about an $80 game on a $450 console, you simply don't have the money to pay for it because you are a broke bum because you don't work, you don't do anything besides sit there and stream all day. You are a completely worthless human being. And that is, I think, the vast majority of the Nintendo YouTubers that I see, like, Vinny, Demish, Arlo, like all these guys want to complain about the price points when their careers literally revolve around them playing games. It's like, in a lot of cases, like these people get games for free. So forgive me if I don't take anything they say or do seriously. They're not general consumers. They're out of touch, but like they're just complaining about the price point for the views, to continue this facade that Nintendo is a lower quality brand and should not be priced the way that an Apple product is or the way that Xbox or PlayStation is. In fact, like you have not heard a peep out of the general gaming community in regard to the raising Xbox prices. They raised the prices for their consoles twice, and they also raise the prices for Xbox Game Pass. And next generation, if Xbox gets the next generation, you are going to start seeing $80 games on Xbox as well. The reason why Mario Kart World is doing it is because the industry at large made it very abundantly clear that they had to do it to make ends meet because they are bleeding money like crazy. So, yeah, forgive me if I don't take like Nintendo commies seriously, if I don't respect anything you had to say, if I think you are very seriously undervaluing the value of Nintendo hardware because I use this stuff far longer than any piece of technology I own. My N64 is still used while my old iPhones, my old computers have been in the trash can, have been disposed of properly through the proper channels, decades ago in a lot of cases. Like people really underestimate how successful Nintendo is at their business. And people really are continuing to undervalue the platform and say it's simply not worth the price point when that simply could not be farther from the truth.